I'm Tiffany Gourley Carter, Policy Counsel at the National Council of Nonprofits, and this is your nonprofit, nonpartisan election tip on candidate forums. Today we have David Heinen of the North Carolina Center for Nonprofits. And David, let's just jump right into it. What is a candidate forum and why do nonprofits consider doing this before an election?
So a candidate forum is an opportunity for a nonprofit or a group of nonprofits to bring together candidates for office. It could be for a local office like mayor. It could be for a statewide office like governor. It could be for a federal office like a U.S. senator or member of Congress, but bring them together to talk about issues that matter to the community in a nonpartisan way.
How do nonprofits really benefit, or more importantly, how do their communities benefit from having these types of conversations directly with the candidates?
Good question, Tiffany. There are a couple of benefits both for the nonprofits and for their community, and frankly for the candidates as well. So one is it helps the nonprofit because one of the candidates for each of the offices that is up in the candidate forum will be an elected official after the election. It gives the nonprofit or nonprofits who are hosting the candidate forum an opportunity to get the issues that matter to the people they serve and to their communities in front of the candidates and get the candidates talking about those issues prior to the election, so that when they pivot after the election and one of them becomes an elected official, they'll be more knowledgeable about it and will understand from, the nonprofit is the expert on those issues, why that matters. It also gives people who are served by nonprofits, the community, people who attend the candidate forum, or perhaps if it's recorded, people who are watching it during or after the candidate forum, an opportunity to learn about the candidates for office and hear about things that matter to them and issues that matter to them.
For the real nitty gritty, like how hard is it to actually pull one of these off?
So nonprofits need to do some planning to make it work. So it's not like, you flip a switch and have it, decide we're going to do a candidate forum tomorrow and make it work. And there are a couple reasons for that. Three reasons really. First, you want to do it legally because as a C3, you need to be nonpartisan. And there are some pretty clear rules, regardless of the format that you use for the candidate forum, for how it needs to be done to be nonpartisan. So that's important, and that takes some planning. Secondly, you want to make sure that it's a useful forum, and that you get a lot of members of the community there, and that you're asking valuable questions on a broad range of topics, so the candidates are engaging on a lot of things. And then thirdly, you really want to make sure that that the candidates are going to show up for the event. And my experience working with nonprofits doing these is it takes a few months to identify the questions, figure out the format, identify a moderator, find a venue, invite the candidates, do all that. And you want to plan at least 3 months in advance, maybe 4 or 5 months prior to the date of the forum.
David, you mentioned needing to do this legally. So
Yes.
I know that you're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, but we're going to give the legal disclaimer that we are not giving legal advice to anyone listening. But what kind of legal issues should they be thinking about going into the consideration of even having one of these?
Yeah, and thank you, Tiffany, for giving that disclaimer. And I will repeat it, that neither of us are we're both lawyers, but we're not your lawyer. We're not giving legal advice today. So a few considerations for that are, some of them are substantive and some of them are process-wise. Kind of process-wise, you want to make sure first that whatever office it is that you're inviting all the candidates for office from all political parties to attend, and that it depends. And Tiffany, as you know as well, that the answer to almost every yes or no legal question that we get is it depends. But it depends on whether you're doing it for one office. So if you're doing it for mayor, and there are 2 candidates for mayor, and only one of them says they're going to show up, you're not going to do the forum because clearly that's not right. But if you've got 5 or 6 different offices and most of the candidates, and particularly a mix from both parties, say yes, then you can probably move forward with this. For the event itself, you want to make sure that you provide the same information at the same time to all the candidates, about the format of the event, about the substance. You can choose whether to provide the questions to them in advance or not. And so, there are ways you can do it either way. at the event itself, you want to give each candidate the same amount of time to share their information. Some of that may be some opportunity for them to make a prepared statement. Some of it may be an opportunity to answer questions. Sometimes nonprofits will have questions from the audience. My experience is that can be tricky because you can get more leading questions. And then you want to make sure, as far as the order of answering questions, that you rotate. If you have multiple questions and multiple opportunities to speak, that you rotate the order of who answers it, so that not every candidate gets the last word on every single question. Because again, it can appear that you are favoring one candidate over another. And then substantively, you want to make sure a couple of things. First, that you're really avoiding questions where there are wedge issues, or where there's a clear right or wrong, implied right or wrong answer to the question that the audience is going to feel. Because if you do, then the candidates who are inclined to answer the right way are going to look better, and it may be seen as an implied endorsement of the nonprofit of that candidate. So avoid those wedge issue questions to the best that you can. And then also really have a wide range of questions. I know a candidate forum that the North Carolina Center for Nonprofits partnered with several Eastern North Carolina nonprofits to do a few years ago. We had because the nonprofits had a variety of missions and a variety of different types of programs and services. We had questions about food insecurity, about affordable housing, about transportation, childcare access to healthcare, senior issues, a lot of different issues that matter to nonprofits. And it really did cover a lot of ground, so that it wasn't seen as just like a one issue thing.
So we already covered a lot of like the logistics when it comes to timing, how much time to give the organization to think through it, these questions, who to invite. What other logistics should a nonprofit consider? Maybe venue wise, or in the event itself. What kind of logistics should they be thinking about?
Yeah, a couple of logistical things that are helpful to think about are one, identifying a moderator. And it's really helpful to have a moderator who is a good public speaker and is confident enough to be able to cut off the candidates if they go over time. So that's an important consideration, but also somebody who's clearly seen as nonpartisan. Really important logistically to have one person whose only role there is to be the timekeeper, probably to have some time cards, because you want to, again, to ensure that you're being nonpartisan. And as a venue, I think to think about like what the best place is to get people there, both audience and also candidates. If you have an existing event where you're going to have a lot of people from the community who are going to be there, it may be an opportunity to, as long as it is seen as a nonpartisan event, and the candidates aren't going to be rooting for one team or another at the event, one political party team or candidate team, that might be an opportunity to have that at that event, and you've got a built-in audience. But if not, you can look at it as a venue. I think it sends a really powerful message to do it at a nonprofit. So a candidate forum that we partnered with a couple of years ago, we did it at the local Council on Aging. They had a great community room for seniors, program room for seniors where we did it. People came there. It was also adjacent to an early voting site, so we could tell people next week you can go next door and vote early.
Do you have any other, last thoughts or tips that you really want to hit home for nonprofits?
I think the last tip I would give is to think about it from the candidate's perspective too, and what's going to motivate them to be there. So I think having a good audience there who are of persuadable voters is really helpful to encourage candidates to come. But also the candidate forum that I referenced that we did with nonprofits in Eastern North Carolina, we had we had a bunch of candidates from both parties there. One of the candidates afterwards, we gave the candidates a series of questions in advance that they were going to ask. One of the candidates came away from it and came up to me afterwards and said, "I really want to thank you for doing this." He said, "I spent the last 2 days studying and learning about the issues that matter to people in the community." He's like, "I had no idea. None of these were the ones my political party gave to me as the talking points. And this is what I'm going to, if I'm elected as a state legislator, this is what the people who are going to be my constituents are going to care about. So I have learned by preparing for this forum what my job would be if I get elected. And I didn't really know that beforehand.
Thank you, David, for the quick nonprofit, nonpartisan election tip. I'm Tiffany Gourley Carter. Make sure you're registered and please go vote.